welcome to another Looney Tunes review video. If you are new to the channel, make sure you subscribe to follow my journey to review all 1000 classic Looney Tunes shorts and give this video a like as well. So this is a review for Cattails for 2, and with me today to have some Cattails for 2 is my good friend Eli Copperman. Say hi.
Hi there, George. Will you help me catch some mice, George? Will you, Will you, George?
Hey, my name's not George, it's Anthony. So, as mentioned, this is Cattails for 2, released on the 9th of August 1953. It's the 688th in the series, and it's directed by Bob McKimson. You can find this on the Looney Tunes Gone Collection Volume 4 DVD set. A HD version is lurking about. Hopefully we'll get that upgrade at some point. It'll probably show up on some Warner Archive release or whatever, but whatever. At least it's on physical media, even if it's just on DVD for the time being. In case you haven't seen this cartoon, I can't show you the full thing here due to copyright on YouTube, but in case you haven't seen it, you've got two cats, one short and seemingly smarter, one named George, and you got a big dumb cat named Benny. They are looking for mice on a Mexican ship where they encounter Speedy Gonzales, the fastest mouse in all of Mexico. Although not the version you're thinking of, and we will definitely get through that in this short.
Oh yeah, that's going to be a story in itself.
Yeah, no, for sure. So, a few bits of trivia here. So, the title itself is a play on the song Cocktails for 2, and that was done just after Prohibition had ended, so in 1934, and that song referred to it. Perhaps the best-known version of that song was done by Spike Jones in a more comedic type way, where he added some sound effects and stuff. You don't actually hear the song, though, in this short, so it's either A, they didn't have the rights to use it, or B, as you told me,
they probably didn't bother to do it. I'm not going to assume anything about Carl Stalling other than he usually just stuck to what was available at the Warner Brothers Musical Library and all that. But at the same time, even if they did use it, I feel like at most it probably would have been an early Merry Melody or something like that.
But either way, it's not in the short, but other songs certainly are, and as you'd probably guess, some of them are even Mexican themed. I know. Absolute shocker, right?
Oh, no.
No.
How could they?
Exactly. So if this short looks familiar, you might have seen Hoppy Go Lucky, and that one actually had Sylvester along with Betty, and in that one you had the running gag of Betty always calling Sylvester George, which is one of my funniest lines in Looney Tunes history ever. But here they've changed it. So instead of Sylvester, we actually have George. This short cat only appears in this one short. And this is actually more closer in line to the whole of Mice and Men story, where you have this big dim-witted character, and then you got the small, smarter character. I go into the whole history of this whole of Mice and Men thing over in the review for Hoppy Go Lucky, so if you haven't watched that, definitely check that out if you want to know more information here.
Spoilers, it has to do with Tex Avery.
But yeah, Tex Avery did his own variation on the whole George and Lenny type thing in a series of shorts at MGM, but that's something I will probably review once I turn 90. And in case you're wondering, SS Pancho Cucaracha, so that's what, Pancho the cockroach? Why on earth would you call your ship a cockroach?
The designers were probably doing an in-joke or something, and it didn't really work out.
Probably the space of the song, La Cucaracha or whatever. See, cartoons are educational. I don't speak a lick of Spanish yet, even I know that, so there you are.
There you go.
Now, there's one very big notable trivia in this one, and I already hinted at it in the synopsis, but yeah, Speedy Gonzales. But this is a prototype Speedy Gonzales. So you've got Speedy Gonzales here with the gold tooth, no sombrero, no pants either, so he's a bit of a deviant, I suppose. But anyway, I guess he's supposed to be here more of an outlaw, so they sort of painted him as such, where he's got the gold tooth, like he's basically a crook. But he sounds the same like he would in 1955's short, well, it's called Speedy Gonzales as well. And over there, unlike what Ted Pierce and McKimson do here, Warren Foster and Friz Freleng redesigned the character, kept the same name, and kept the same voice and inflections, the whole riba and that sort of thing. But interestingly enough, after that, the Speedy Gonzales shorts would be alternated between Friz Freleng and Robin McKimson. So this is also not the last time that McKimson would do a Speedy Gonzales short, just in a different way.
It was the only short he got to make with Speedy before the Warner Brothers studio shut down, but at the same time, that early design of Speedy, I will say, I will defend Speedy Gonzales to the grave, although most people of Mexican descent or people from Mexico will defend Speedy to the grave as well, because the funny thing is, There was a point where, I forget who it was either Warner Brothers or maybe just the media in general, they wanted to ban Speedy Gonzales. The main reason was because they thought that he would be offensive to Mexican people. But it turns out that Mexican people actually love Speedy Gonzales, so they, showed their pride and support for him. But the thing is, I think they're mostly talking about the Speedy Gonzales that we know, the one with the sombrero, the one who looks really cute. The one in this short, granted, I don't think they intended Speedy to be a recurring character in any sense of the word. And granted, even if they did, thank goodness they redesigned him, because this design of Speedy, while not super ugly, it's a very unfortunate design of its time.
Yeah, so in this case, they just needed a design for, well, an outlaw, and they're just gone with the most stereotypical choice, I guess. But look, the whole point of this short is the two cats want a mouse, and the gag is, oh, you want Mexican food? We'll have to go on a Mexican ship. And we get a Mexican outlaw mouse, and that's pretty much it. And we get all the gags. But though, thankfully, this short's actually really, really funny. I had not seen it since watching it, probably last time I watched the Looney Tunes Golden Collection Volume 4. And all I remembered from it was it's the first appearance of this prototype Speed. But thankfully, in rewatching it now, my goodness, this is absolutely hilarious. McKimson, by this point, hit or miss, granted, but this is definitely a hit in my opinion.
Oh, yeah. Feel free to disagree. I actually think it's at least a little bit funnier than Happy Go Lucky. When we were talking about Benny in that short, we kind of joked that he was a little bipolar, given that he had constant mood swings, but I feel like what makes Benny more appealing in this short is that he's a lot more naive. Unlike that short where he wanted a mouse to play with, which is just kind of a typical dick with any caricature of Lenny from Of Mice and Men, in this short, he actually wants to eat the mice, and I think that's a lot more palatable and relatable as far as cats go.
I love both shorts for different reasons, but I think they work in different ways. But here, Benny comes more across like Junior Bear from the Chuck Jones 3 Bears series. That's how it feels like here. There's even one gag, which we'll no doubt touch upon later on, that's just about lifted from the Bear for Punishment.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But let's take a look at this short from the start, and right away, I noticed that this short, see, Friz Freeling was noted for his timing. He was impeccable at it, and even in his worst shorts, there was always impeccable timing. But McKimson's not really well known for the timing, but my goodness, the timing in this one's fantastic. Like, for example, the first gag where Benny just bangs his head and he ends up crushing George, the timing works so well.
That scene has always stood out to me for a long time. Even, funnily enough, even before seeing the cartoon when I was younger on the Looney Tunes Golden Collection Volume 4, I actually remember seeing a featurette of the origins of Speedy Gonzales. I think it was on the first volume of the Golden Collection series, and they talked about the origins of Speedy Gonzales, and they talked about Cattails for Two, and that specific scene was included. So that scene in particular has, ever since the age of 9, lived in my head rent-free.
So I like how the reasoning is, oh yeah, it's a Mexican ship, and there's bound to be Mexican mice on board.
Well, that's a Mexican ship, and there's bound to be Mexican mouses on board.
And I gotta say, watching this, and I'm currently on a bit of a diet, so it's like, oh, don't mention Mexican food. I love Mexican food, although I found out since a few years back what I like is not, I guess, authentic Mexican food. It's really Tex-Mex, but go figure. One day I'd like to try authentic Mexican food anyway, just not mouse. I'm not gonna eat a mouse. Not like what they think is authentic in this short, at least. But the timing, here's another good example when Benny needs to throw George onto the ship. That is just fantastic.
Oh, yeah. I don't know why, but the scene afterwards where he says, "George, can't you read? It said no fishing," but when it says no swimming, that part has always cracked me up.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about it, and I was just cracking up going, oh, geez. Like, what a great topper, because you can sort of go, oh, yeah, it would have worked if it was just no swimming, yeah? But no, we get to add a topper where he actually misreads it, and what's him being in the water got to do with fishing? I don't know, but anyway.
Where's George at?
Oh, Benny.
George, what's the matter with you? Can't you read? It says no fishing.
So they're in the ship, and we see this wonderful mousetrap where George, it's pretty clever. Hey, we don't really need to see much. We just got to set this trap and we'll catch a mouse. Sound reasoning, except that this Speedy Gonzales is really fast, and we finally see him. So yeah, the whole gold tooth outlaw Speedy Gonzales prototype thing, or maybe there's two Speedy Gonzaleses in this universe. So yeah, you never know. One good, one bad. Maybe they should have done in the Looney Tunes cartoons a sort of a crossover thing between the two Speedy Gonzaleses or something. But in any case, it is what it is. But I absolutely love the scream by Benny. So basically, the next point of call is, okay, we've got a whole box of anvils by the trusted Acme Corporation, of course. So Benny's pulling it up, and George is waiting to catch Speedy, and so he can crush him.
Yeah!
And on top of that, well animated by Rod Scribner. I did want to mention one thing about Rod Scribner. He does some notable scenes in this. Not just that scene, but also the scene towards the end where, just a little jump ahead, George moves a bunch of pipe into the mouse hole to light up a bunch of TNT. I think at that point, I'm sure a lot of people have said this already, like McKimson kind of put Rod Scribner under a leash after, you know, the dude was spoiled by Bob Clampett to go super wild and zany and out there. Whereas McKimson was much more tighter in his direction and didn't want his animators to over-animate. And in Rod Scribner's case, especially in the shorts that he did when he came back to McKimson, that was mostly the case. But here in particular, you can easily tell that it's Scribner, and he definitely gets some fun mileage out of Benny when he screams. And also when George attempts to run away but gets crushed by the crate, so to say, like there's some really funny poses and expressions there. And also the bit where Benny lifts up the crate and goes, "Ooh." Those facial expressions just had me dying a little bit.
Oh, yeah. I was just cracking it. And poor Benny's like just shocked at what he's done. He's like, oh no, oh no. Just these shocked expressions. Fantastic. It's amazing. And then we get another case of a wonderful gag where you think he's going to go one way, but ends up going another way, where you got George, he picks up that mallet, he hits George, but it actually bounces back onto him, knocking himself out. And what does Benny say? Why'd you hit yourself on the head?
I like it, I like it. I love how he didn't even flinch when he got hit on the head. Like, he had no reaction.
Yeah, exactly. It's fantastic. So we then Speedy is saying, you know, I love these fellows. They're all the time, they're having fun. So it's quite clear that Speedy right here is just like, yeah, these guys, they're just jokes. This is a great way for me to kill the time. So it's kind of like a Bugs Bunny type character, you know? We see boxes upon boxes upon boxes of fireworks, and the box even says Cinco de Mayo celebration, which, do we really need that sticker? We just need to know it's fireworks, okay?
Maybe the cartoon entered production on Cinco de Mayo.
Who knows? But what's interesting, though, is that those don't really look like fireworks, do they? They look more like dynamite. Unless they're really strong fireworks, you know? Like, I mean, those Mexicans do know how to celebrate after all, so...
Apologies to all Mexicans everywhere. We don't know anything.
Exactly right. You know, Cinco de Mayo? What's that? No, I know what that is, but anyway. But we got beautiful timing. So first of all, it's like, hey, all I need is a match, and dinner is on the table. Speedy offers a match, and then we get a beautifully timed scene where George will go to one bit of dynamite, he blows up, another one blows up, another one blows up, and so on and so forth. That could have worked on its own like that, right? But then we got another wonderful topper, which is very similar to Bear for Punishment. We see the bucket. Clearly this is petrol. I mean, gasoline to the Americans, petroleum for everywhere else, okay, in case anyone's wondering. But he's reading it, you know, P-E-T-R-O-L. That's a funny way to spell water.
P-E-T-R-O-L. Huh, that's a funny way to spell water. This'll cool you off, George. George is my friend.
And the reaction of George, it's like he knew it was going to be petrol and he was preparing for it. He flames up, the top of his head goes, he's just got that one still pose. He's like, yeah, whatever. You know, this is Ted Pierce who wrote the short. This is him on a good day, because sometimes he'll write a short where a lot of the gags will just be basic, where they're not bad per se. They're just, okay, whatever, or they're outright bad. But here, he's firing in all cylinders, you know, if you pardon the pun, with all those fireworks, of course. But anyway, so we now set up the next bit. We see that's both a casino and it's girls, girls, girls. So interesting type of casino, I guess. Or maybe it's more of a gentlemanly type casino. I don't know. I'm sure they just mean chorus girls, but yeah, it's just weird the way it was done. So anyway, but whatever. And Speedy's just looking at us. He's like, really, guys? Really? So then he pretends to play along where he's like, oh, yes, senoritas, you know, he's really excited, you know, girls, senoritas, yes. And he goes in. Now, another great example of the timing in this short being impeccable. So you have Speedy going through the pipe, then you have a fireworks going through the pipe, and then George goes through the pipe. And then with the timing, you got Speedy escaping the pipe, the other thing escaping the pipe, and then he hits George on the head.
I guess if Benny was going to try to hit Speedy with the mallet anyway, they probably didn't need George to light the firework or anything. But at the same time, the punchline is funny, just for that image of flattened mallet George alone.
Oh yeah, exactly. And the impeccable timing is the reason why this gag actually works, because the swing happens at the same time as both Speedy and that initial firework comes out. So that, yeah, it's perfectly timed. And if it wasn't timed well, this joke would have fallen flat. Or mallet in the case of George, of course. And we get to our final gag, which is the whole thing with the pipe. And we can see that Speedy's not only the fastest about Mexico, he must be one of the most strongest, because how on earth did he bend those pipes around? But anyway, we just go with it. Cartoon logic. And the pipes go around. They keep adding more and more fireworks. Yep, keep going. And then Benny notices. He's like, George? They both realize it. And then I assume that they die. No, not quite. They get blown up and they end up in the water, and it's like, nice little punchline. Are we still having Mexican food? Nah, I lost my appetite for Mexican food.
I kind of lost my appetite for Mexican food, Benny.
And we end up with what will end up being the other Speedy Gonzales' catchphrase, you know, like, I like those gatos or whatever he says at the end. I forgot what he says, but he says pretty much...
It's basically his rendition of,
I like him. He's silly.
Yeah.
You know, say what you will about it, but as an early prototype Speedy Gonzales, they definitely had the character down. They just needed to find a way to refine him more or less, and not long after this, they did. I guess you could argue that they had the right ideas, that they just needed some fine-tuning, and luckily they found it. But I can imagine them, like, redoing this kind of premise verbatim in another Speedy Gonzales cartoon, you know, with his usual design intact. Maybe it wouldn't have been as funny, but, you know, I could still see them doing that kind of premise just fine. But yeah, overall, I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10. It's a very enjoyable cartoon, nothing more, nothing less.
Me, I'll give it about an 8. I actually think it's really solid. It's made me laugh a lot, and it's definitely one of the finer Ted Pierce and McKimson pairings, where, as I mentioned before, it's hit or miss. And in this case, it's a definite hit. Yeah, it's the design, a little unfortunate, but it's definitely nowhere near as bad as some of the stereotypes you do end up seeing in some of the Warner Brothers shorts. And thankfully, they do the right thing and redesign him, because this design would not have worked in the Freeling version that appears in a couple of years.
No, would not have. It also would not have made Speedy Gonzales that easy to defend, unfortunately.
Exactly. But that'll do it for this one. Thank you so much for watching, guys. And until next time, take care.
Adios, muchachos.
George, aren't we going to have our Mexican dinner, George?
No. I kind of lost my appetite for Mexican food. I love those fellows. They're so silly.